What is up, guys? My name is Harry Rice and welcome back to the channel. Today's a brand new video. And today, as I think a lot of people are going to be doing in the coming days because the playoffs start tomorrow, I'm going to be doing my 2021 NHL playoff predictions. As you can see, I have the browser open for the bracket challenge on my well, in front of me, but to your left. Right under me, I have the playoffs logo because I needed space to fill, so playoff logo works best. We're going to get right into it. I'm not going to waste your time. Division to start with. Let's start with the North. No, actually, I want to stay as far away from the North as possible. Let's start with the Central because I think this is going to be the easiest division to predict. Carolina and Nashville, to me, is kind of a no-brainer. It's going to be Carolina in my opinion. I think it's Carolina in 4. I think Carolina is absolutely a cup contender right now. Nashville has been falling off since their 2016 Cup run. I don't think they have what it takes. Overpaying Duchesne and Johansson. Their defense core is really solid, but I think Carolina's is that much better. Any defense with Dougie Hamilton is very likely going to win over a majority of the league. Going to win over a majority of the league, not win over a majority of the league. You know what I mean. Goaltending, I still think I'd give to Carolina. Yes, Saros is decent. Pecorine, just too good right now, obviously. But I don't know if I'd put it past James Reimer and Alex Nedeljkovic and Peter Mrazek. I think they can get it done for Carolina in net. Yes, Pecorine at one point was an elite goaltender. I honestly think Nedeljkovic is going to come out and have a really surprising run for the Carolina Hurricanes. I think he's going to be a really, really solid goaltender for them. And offense, name offense for the Predators. All I can think of is Eli Tolvanen and Kalle Jarnkrok. Carolina, they've got Aho, Svechnikov. I think they have Vinny Trocheck, or is he in Florida? I keep forgetting. Carolina, they're stacked with offense. I really, really like the Hurricanes' chances. So, for me, like I said, no-brainer, Carolina in 4. Next up, the team I'm wearing the jersey of right now. I don't know if you guys can see it at all. Oh, there you go. The Florida Panthers taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning, the defending Stanley Cup champions. This is a bit of a tough matchup to predict. On one hand, Tampa is the defending Stanley Cup champions. They have all of their key pieces. They bought at the deadline, hard bought at the deadline. But on the other hand, the Florida Panthers look like a potential cup contender this year. The Florida Panthers have all the pieces necessary. They have an elite top pairing or an elite first line on offense, really solid defense, really good goaltending because Sergei Bobrovsky decided to show up this year, and Spencer Knight looking pretty solid in the few games that he got. And in my opinion, I honestly think what Tampa's been doing to circumvent the cap by holding Kucherov out of this season, I think that's going to come back to bite them. Stamkos, of course, was legitimately injured, I'm pretty sure, and Hedman playing through an injury. I think that's going to cost Tampa Bay in the end. I think if the Florida Panthers are smart and they come out and hit Hedman, Sergachev, and Stamkos, or Sergachev, Hedman, and Kucherov, there we go, when they're on the puck and you're able to injure them in some way, then I think absolutely Florida is going to stomp all over Tampa. But for me personally, I do think Florida takes the series, and I think it's in 6 games. A lot of people have this going to 7, but I think Florida is able to finish the job in 6. Yes, Vasilevsky versus Bobrovsky. Vasilevsky, no doubt. But I feel like Florida is going to be able to upset Tampa Bay, which is funny because Florida is the 2nd seed. It's funny, Florida's the 2nd seed. But I think a lot of people are taking Tampa, and I think it's about 50-50 right now, but I'm going to say Florida technically upsets Tampa because they are the defending Stanley Cup champions, and they'd be out in the first round. All right, the West Division. This is a bit tough to predict because for me, I think every division except the Central is going to be tough to predict because for me, I had Vegas winning the President's Trophy, and I already had my prediction set. It was going to be Colorado and Minnesota and Vegas, St. Louis. But now the Colorado decided to whip LA into submission and win the President's Trophy. I'm in a bit of a tough situation now. So we're going to start with that matchup. The President's Trophy winning Colorado Avalanche against the St. Louis Blues, who were the 4th seed. I don't know how I feel about this matchup, honestly. I really like the Colorado Avalanche's chances. Obviously, a lot of people are having them going all the way and winning the Stanley Cup. I personally don't think that. Spoilers. But, they have a great first line. That Rantanen, Landeskog, and McKinnon line is incredible. One of the best in hockey. Really good second line. I believe Kadri is centering that line. Really good third line. Really like a lot of the Avalanche's depth. Defense, they're stacked. Name a line of theirs that isn't producing. Of course, they have Makar. I believe, I forget the other prospect they had that came in this year. He's looked really solid. They have Devon Tays, robbed him from the Islanders potentially. Those 2 second-round picks, they might not look like much, but believe me, the scouts the scouts with the Islanders, they know how to make stars right now. But for me, the Colorado Avalanche are stacked. But the St. Louis Blues are hungry. They barely snuck into that 4th seed. I think they had to beat out, I think it was Phoenix. They had to beat out for that 4th seed. Sorry. And, St. Louis, they have a really good offense. They've added Mike Hoffman since their 2019 Cup run. But overall, a majority of the pieces that they have in that 2019 Cup run are still there, excluding, of course, Alex Pietrangelo, who left to go to Vegas, which we're going to get to in a minute, obviously. But they brought in Torrey Krug. So they replaced a great two-way guy with a really good offensive defenseman in Torrey Krug, plus Justin Falk's been looking really solid. So overall, I think they've, in a way, improved their team from the Cup-winning team, which is funny because that team won the Stanley Cup, and this team isn't. Spoiler. But, St. Louis, compared to Colorado, I think you can honestly make an argument for either team. But for me personally, I do think the Colorado Avalanche are going to take out the St. Louis Blues. And personally, I think it's going to be in 5 games. I think the St. Louis Blues are going to make it a very tough 5 games. But the Colorado Avalanche are going to take it. And you heard it here first. At least 2 games are going to overtime in this series, in my opinion. Next up, the Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild. Of course, Vegas, a lot of people are putting them as Cup champions. A lot of people are having either Colorado or Vegas for the Cup. And I could see either or. I personally don't think Colorado's winning the Cup. As to Vegas, we'll get to them. But for me, Vegas, stacked on offense. Probably the only issue I have with them, they don't have a clear-cut number 1 center. I think they've been using Chandler Stevenson there for a while. I think they've used Nick Waugh there for a while. They've been switching up their offensive first-line center. While they have a lot of really good wingers, Pacioretty, Stone, Marchessault, Carlson, just to name their top 6 wingers. They've got really good depth as well. Ryan Reeves is a tough guy who can pot in a couple goals here and there. Their defense stacked. Getting Alex Pietrangelo, I believe, still having Shea Theodore, or is he the guy shipped off to? No, he was not the guy shipped off to Vancouver. Having Alex Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore is really, really solid. And of course, in net, Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner. That's going to be an elite goaltending tandem, or that is an elite goaltending tandem that's going to perform very well for them in the playoffs, I think. And then the Minnesota Wild. Kirill Kaprizov. That's really the only thing I have to say about their offense is Kirill Kaprizov. A lot of people have them potentially upsetting Vegas. But for me, Minnesota's really relying hard on Kirill Kaprizov this year. Yes, a lot of their players are showing up, but I think in the playoffs they're unfortunately going to go back to how they were in previous years. Not under Bruce Boudreau taking 3-2 leads at home, but relying too heavily on one of their star players or their star player to show up and to get them 3 goals, get them a hat trick, get them 2 assists, and push hard for that lead or that big win. But I just don't think it's going to happen. Their defense is good, and I really, really don't know much about their goaltending. But for me, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Vegas is going to take this series. And in my opinion, this series is going 7. I think Minnesota is going to make it incredibly tough to eliminate. It's going to make it incredibly tough for Vegas to eliminate them. But I do think Vegas is going to get it done in 7, which is funny because that's what a lot of people are saying about Colorado St. Louis. But I do think, while my concerns about Minnesota are there, I think they're going to partly prove me wrong and, like I said, push the series to 7. Going to the East Division, this is arguably the toughest division besides the North. I think the North is incredibly tough because obviously I'm a Canadiens fan, so I'm trying to put that away as far as possible for the time being. But the East Division, the 1st seed Penguins versus the 4th seed New York Islanders. The Islanders, of course, who were number 1 in the East at one point, actually tied with the Capitals, I think, for first, I believe. Unfortunately, have struggled since they captured number 1 and have fallen all the way to the 4th seed, which I think arguably helps them more than being the 1 seed, because last year's playoffs, they were a play-in team. They faced these guys, the Florida Panthers, Yeah, they faced the Florida Panthers, took them out in 4 games, pretty much swept them. If the Panthers hadn't won game 2, it would have been a sweep, should have been a sweep. And the Penguins were a playing team last year. They faced these guys, the Montreal Canadiens. So 2 teams that were playing teams last year, facing as the 1 seed and the 4th seed. The Penguins want to show they're not done yet, and the Islanders want to show that last year's run to the conference finals wasn't a fluke. Yeah, Penguins, Crosby Mulligan. They have Crosby Mulligan. They have Gensel. They have Jeff Carter, who's looked phenomenal since joining Pittsburgh. He's looked like the Jeff Carter of 2012 or 2014. And the Islanders, they have Matt Barzal. Anders Lee is unfortunately hurt. They have Jean-Gabriel Pageau, who's very, very underrated as a third-line center, in my opinion. Of course, adding Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac at the deadline, I think is going to prove to be a good addition for them. I think the playoffs, those guys are really going to show up and really help out the Islanders. Defense, Pittsburgh, they've looked solid on defense. John Marino, of course, being my notable piece for them, in my opinion. And the Islanders, of course, the combination of Pelech and Pulak has been their best pairing for at least, 3 seasons now. For me, it really comes down to the goaltending, which you have Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith in net, comparing to Semyon Varlamov and Ilya Sorokin. So you have 2 goalies who have never gone to the playoffs, and they're backing up. Or at least I'm pretty sure Casey DeSmith has never gone to the playoffs. And then you have Semyon Varlamov, who was the starter for last year's conference finals run, and Tristan Jarry, who was the backup to Matt Murray in the play-ins last year. In my opinion, I know a lot of people are going to have Pittsburgh taking the series, and a lot of Islanders fans that I know have the Pittsburgh Penguins taking the series. I think the Islanders are going to be able to get it done. I think the Islanders take out the Penguins, and I think it's in 6 games. I think the Penguins are going to make it a series, but I do think the Islanders are going to win it in 6 games and go on to the second round of the East Division playoffs, because it's still only in the East Division. Second seed Capitals against the 3rd seed Bruins. This is a bit of a tough matchup as well, because you look at the Capitals. They have Ovechkin, who's coming back. They have Kuznetsov still out, so they have to run with Backstrom as still their first-line center, which I don't think was necessarily the plan, even though he's making that $9 million extension, which is... They have Tom Wilson, who is the dirtiest player in the NHL right now. But then you look at the Bruins and that top line of Marchand, Pasternak, and Bergeron. That is an elite first line. That is an incredible first line in the NHL. Love the depth. They added, of course, Taylor Hall. Stole Taylor Hall from Buffalo at the trade deadline. So for me, offense-wise, I think it can go either way. I do think Boston has the upper hand, though. Because the Capitals, for me at least, they really only have Ovechkin. As long as you have guys feeding Ovechkin the puck, he's going to put it in the back of the net. At least for me, that's what I think this year is. They're really only going to have Ovechkin in the playoffs showing up offensively wise. Defense, interesting, because Zdeno Chara, who is kind of a lifelong Bruin, he spent like 3 years in Ottawa and a year with the Islanders. But for me, I always recognize Chara as a Bruin, which I think a majority of people do. So for him to be on the Capitals is such a weird feeling this year. It has been. I've not gotten used to seeing Chara in a Capitals jersey at all. So it's interesting that the first round matchup will be him against his former team. Chara's going to want to prove something. He's going to want to go out there, probably score a goal or two in the first round, maybe a game winner or two. And he's going to want to defend the hell out of the Bruins. He's known the Bruins. He knows what they can do. So if anything, I think this maybe favors the Capitals in a way, that Chara can be like, yo, these guys would do this and this and this. You know, when they would do this, they would try and go do that. I think Chara on the Capitals, if anything, helps them against the Bruins defensively wise. So it resorts to who's in net for the Capitals. It is Ilya Sorokin, or not Ilya Sorokin, sorry, it's Samsonov. I forgot the guy's first name, I'm sorry, but Samsonov. I want to say Sergei Samsonov, but it's not Sergei Samsonov. Samsonov and Vanacek, 2 rookie goaltenders who have not sniffed the playoffs, because I don't think Samsonov got any games last year. And for Boston, it's Rask and Halak's kind of final hurrah, as I'm very positive Rask is retiring, and Halak is probably going to either Seattle or free agency, in which case he probably still could go to Seattle. So for me, I think it comes down to experience and who has the potential to lead this team more. And in my opinion, I do think the Boston Bruins are going to take out the Washington Capitals, but it's going to be a very, very tough series, and it is going to be in 7 games. I think both the Islanders and Bruins are going to be incredibly spent. Of course, this is actually being the series that starts tomorrow on the 14th, so that is going to be an interesting matchup for sure. Now into the North Division. I want to get this matchup out of the way. It's Edmonton versus Winnipeg. In my opinion, I've been very hard saying Winnipeg is going to take this series, no doubt. And with the way Connor Hellebuyck has been slumping, the offense really hasn't been showing up. The defense has looked like the defense we predicted it to be at the beginning of the season, non-existent. Against the Oilers team of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Smith, who really shows up there? But that's the thing is there's a week between the U.S. division starting playoffs and the Canadian division. So the Jets have time to get themselves prepared and get themselves ready and back on track to take out the Oilers. So for me, in my opinion, this series has potential to be a massive trap series where the Oilers, look at how the Jets came out at the last 11 games. I think they lost, 9 of the last 11, something crazy like that. They could look at that and think, okay, we're going to steamroll them, and the Jets come out and whoop their asses. Or it could not be a trap series where the Jets genuinely come out as slow as they did at the final 11 games of the season, and the Oilers walk all over them in 4, But for me, I do personally think that this is tricky for me. I love seeing teams fail. I love seeing the Oilers fail, and I love seeing the Jets fail. So for me, it really comes down to who do I want to see fail more. And in my opinion, it's the Winnipeg Jets. I think the Oilers are going to take this series. And I think it's going to be a 5-game series. I think it's going to be a very, very quick and easy 5 games for the Oilers. I think the Jets are barely going to get into it. They're going to get into a game 4 maybe. It's maybe going to be a 3-0 Edmonton series. Jets win a game, but then the Oilers take it at home. So yeah. And then the big series. It's Toronto and Montreal. Everyone has wanted to see this matchup. The first time since 1979. And of course, funny to know, every time someone from this series has won this series, they've gone on to win the Stanley Cup whenever this series has been in the playoffs. Don't think it's going to happen this year. I highly doubt it, but we'll see. But the Toronto Maple Leafs, of course, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, William Nylander, they have their core 4. But of course, adding Nick Foligno, Riley Smith at the deadline. I believe they added Ben Hutton, I think, as well from the Kings. I think it was Ben Hutton they added, or was that to Tampa? I forget, one of the two. But it doesn't matter. He's a depth defenseman anyways. But having a lot of the depth that they do, Hyman's going to be back. Simmons, Thornton, Spezza, a lot of this veteran leadership that they brought in and veteran physicality that they brought in with Thornton and Simmons. And Spezza coming back, looking fantastic, looking as good as he ever has, in my opinion. Toronto really is stacked offensively and defense, of course. Morgan Riley, Travis Dermott, in my opinion, is not too bad. TJ Brody's been looking like a really solid signing for Toronto. They have a lot of really good defensive pieces. And in net, Jack Campbell, Freddie Anderson, and David Rittich. So you got 2 guys who are perennial failures in the playoffs, and Jack Campbell, who has actually sniffed the playoffs and has won a cup, the closest thing that the Leafs have to a cup right now. But then you look at the Montreal Canadiens, who aren't doing that much better. Offensively, they realistically should have their first line of Tatar, No, Gallagher back, unless the No's not good to go for the playoffs, which would suck. But if he is good to go, we have that first line back. You likely have Suzuki playing on your second line, Cookie and Emmy in your third, and it's a matter of fitting Toffoli and Anderson around there, because you also want to fit Caulfield, and I think Perry you want to fit in your middle 6 as well. So for me, it's a mix of those guys, and then likely your bell line is your 4th. For me, it's really a mix of, are your guys going to show up, and if they do, how well can they defend Matthews and Marner, and how well can they find the spots on Jack Campbell to beat him and win games? Because for me, the way I see it is Freddie Anderson, the way he played in his last game, is not at all going to start in the regular season. I don't see it at all happening. There's no possible chance that Freddie Anderson sniffs the playoffs this year, it's going to be Jack Campbell's net to lose. Unless he lets in 7 goals on 17 shots in game 1, that's the only way Anderson or Riddick sniff the playoffs, but it's not going to happen. Jack Campbell's not going to allow that. But for me, defense-wise, I do think I give it to the Maple Leafs very slightly. Yes, we have Weber and Petrie and Edmondson and Romanoff and Kulak, but I think Sherrod is a very, very rough patch on this team. I don't like what Sherrod has done this year. So for me, the equivalent of Ben Sherrod would be Marty Marincin on the Leafs, in my opinion. I don't like Ben Sherrod on defense. He was the main reason why we lost that Flyers series last year. A lot of the goals went in off him. And I feel like it could very well happen again this year. Hoping it doesn't, but it very well could. Then in net, like I said, obviously Campbell, and it's going to be Carey Price and Jake Allen. I think. True. Freddie Anderson kind of has to sniff the playoffs because there's a back-to-back in Game 3 and 4 now that I remember. So Jake Allen is going to sniff the playoffs as well. Carey Price. I don't know how I feel about Carey Price. He's coming off of a month-long absence due to a concussion. Hasn't played a game in a month. He's been training. He's recently been in full goalie equipment and taking shots, I believe. There's almost a week. Actually, I think exactly a week yesterday from when the Canadian playoffs start, and Montreal has time to get Carey Price prepared for playoffs. I don't know if he's going to come out and be the Carey Price of last year's playoffs, where he robbed the series of the Penguins and played really good against the Flyers. I don't know if Carey Price can become playoff Carey Price. Of course, he should. He realistically should. But I don't know if he's ready for Game 1. But that's the good thing is that, play him Game 1. If we lose, okay, sucks. But we get Carey Price likely rejuvenated as playoff Carey Price. But if we win, awesome, Carey Price playoff form is back. So for me, there's really 2 ways the series could go. It's either Carey Price doesn't show up, the defense turns to shit, and the offense doesn't show up, which I don't see being very likely that it doesn't show up because Gallagher's going to be back. He's going to motivate the whole team. And Toronto wins it in 4-5, or Price turns into past playoff form. The defense actually plays very, very well, which would mean Weber playing top 6 minutes at most, and the offense actually showing up, Toffoli turning back into what he played in the regular season, Anderson becoming really physical again, Gallagher performing well, Caulfield continuing the craziness that he had in his final 7 games. It was 5 points in his last 7 games of the year. Honestly, like I said, there's a lot of X factors that can go either way in all these series, but especially in the Montreal-Toronto series, in my opinion. And I want to go Toronto not to be biased for the Canadiens, but I want to go for the Canadiens because I genuinely think at this point they could upset the Maple Leafs. For me, I genuinely don't know who wins this series. I actually don't know who ends up taking this series, whether it's Toronto or Montreal. I genuinely don't know. Because, see, Toronto, like I said, if they win it, it's likely 4 or 5. If Montreal wins it, it's 6 or 7. I agree with a lot of people on that point. But for me, I am going to be honest. Personally, I do see the Toronto Maple Leafs taking this series. I do see the Maple Leafs taking it. But I do think the Maple Leafs take it in 6. I think the Habs are going to make it a really good series. But I do think the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to get to the second round of the playoffs for the first time since 2004. And we're going to get the North Division second round matchup out of the way because it's literally the easiest. Toronto-Edmonton. Edmonton's McDavid, Draisaitl, and Smith. You shut down McDavid, Draisaitl, you win. Toronto's going to take the series, and since they didn't do the games, it's going to be Toronto in 4. Toronto is going to sweep aside Edmonton like they weren't even there, like the failure of a franchise that they've been since 1990. The West Division. I'm going to get to last because that is tough as shit. The East Division. Fuck. I don't know. I really think Montreal can beat Toronto. I genuinely think Toronto it could get beat by Montreal. But that's the thing is I don't want to immediately just put Montreal in the conference finals or in the Final Four because they would absolutely beat Edmonton, no doubt about it, in my opinion. But I see Toronto making it into the conference finals this year. I see it happening. I honestly see it happening. Let's get the Central out of the way because I think that's going to be the easiest for me to do. Carolina and Florida. In my opinion, I think this is incredibly easy. Florida, yes, they'll beat Tampa. I don't think they have what it takes to beat Carolina. I think the goaltending, the defense, and offense is so much better in Carolina than it is in Florida. A lot of inexperienced guys in Florida in terms of playoffs. Majority of those guys haven't even sniffed the second round of the playoffs. Barely even sniffed the first round of the playoffs. Carolina, like I said, went on like I haven't mentioned, unfortunately, for some reason I haven't mentioned, went to the conference finals in 2019. They've been here before, so they know what it's like, and I honestly do think Carolina is going to take the series, and I think it's going to be in 5 games. I do think it's going to be a very quick series for the Carolina Hurricanes. Florida does take a game. Maybe it's game 1, maybe game 3, but I do think Carolina is going to take out the Florida Panthers and go on to the Final Four. Next, I'm actually going to get Colorado Vegas out of the way because I do think this is a very, very easy matchup for me to determine. Personally, Colorado Vegas. Colorado has a lot of great offensive depth. They're really solid defensively. I don't know if the goaltending can hold up because Philip Grubauer is a good starter, but I don't know if he's better than Marc-Andre Fleury. I honestly don't know if Philip Grubauer is going to be better than Marc-Andre Fleury or Robin Lehner in net. I don't know if Philip Grubauer is better than either of those guys in net. And for me, Vegas has been to the Stanley Cup final before. They've been here. They know what it's like. And personally, I do think the Vegas Golden Knights take it. But another 7-game series for Vegas. It's going to take 7 games to eliminate Colorado. And hot take, at least one game is going to triple overtime in this series. I have a feeling triple overtime in at least one of these series. Next up, the New York Islanders and Boston Bruins. This is going to be an interesting series because the Bruins went to the conference finals went to the Stanley Cup finals in 2019. Were out in the first round last year. So for this year, they've already done better. They've gone to the second round. But the Islanders, they're incredibly hungry. I'm guaranteeing it. They want to get to the conference finals, and they want to get to the Stanley Cup final for sure. And for me, I do think it's possible because Semyon Varlamov, I don't think on his own is better than Rask or Halak. But you got to think about it this way. Rask and Halak are already, I believe, both at least 35. I believe Halak just turned 35. Rask, I believe, is 37. So Varlamov's only 29. He's got years on Rask and Halak. So for me, I honestly do think that goaltending, the experience of Rask and Halak, isn't going to be able to hold up because they're old. And the same reason I gave for Mike Smith. You tucker them out, you're able to get them working and get them going, pushing hard, and it's going to wear them out in my opinion. The defense I do think is much better in the Islanders. I think Boston has a really good top 4. Charlie McAvoy, Brendan Carlo, Mike Riley, another addition that I forgot to mention that they added at the deadline, I think is going to be incredibly solid in my opinion. I really, really like what Mike Riley's done with Boston so far, and I liked what he did in Ottawa this year. He was looking really solid. But the Islanders, Pulak Pelech. Leddy, I think, is kind of underrated. I think he can be decent at points. I think the Islanders, they have a really good defensive core all over. Yes, losing Devontae sucks, but I do think they have the defensive pieces to be able to outlast Boston. And offense, obviously, you're going to have a handful if you're trying to beat that Marchand Bergeron Pasternak line. But for me, I do think the Islanders are able to hold on and do it. I do think Barzal is going to be able to get through. I think Pajot is going to lead the third line to a really, really solid couple of goals. I think Palmieri and Zajac are going to show up, especially in this series. I think they're definitely going to show up, because they're going to think, hey, Islanders could have had Taylor Hall, but they went for us instead. Let's show Boston why they went for us, And I think it's interesting because Hall went to the Boston Bruins and Palmieri, Zajac to the Islanders. I think it's going to be a really, really interesting series. But for me, I do think the Islanders do end up taking it, and I think it's going to be in I wouldn't be surprised if it's 6 games. So now we go into the conference finals. We will have Vegas versus the Islanders and Carolina versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. These are going to be incredibly interesting. And first off, I'm going to say that I have read and agreed to the official rules. These are going to be a very, very interesting set of series, in my opinion. Vegas and the Islanders. You look at it, the goaltending, obviously, Robin Lehner playing against his former team. If Fleury gets hurt or if they decide, hey, let's put Lehner against the Islanders. He knows these guys very well. And, of course, the defense. I like the Islanders' defense, but I really, really like the Golden Knights' defense. Since adding Pietrangelo, it's looked great in my opinion. Shea Theodore, like I mentioned earlier, is really, really solid. I believe they're playing on top line minutes together. And the offense. I love the Islanders' offense. I don't know how I feel about Vegas's. I love their top 6. and I love Ryan Reeves on their fourth line, but I feel like the Islanders might be slightly better offensively. If they had an offensively minded coach, I think they'd be scoring a lot more goals. I think they'd be scoring a hell of a lot more goals, in my opinion. Of course, Beauvillier, I really, really like what Beauvillier has brought to the Islanders, in my opinion. There's a lot of guys on the Islanders that I really like. But for me, Brock Nilsson, I think he can put in a couple goals occasionally. For me, this really comes down to, can the Islanders outclass the Golden Knights? Because the Golden Knights can play defensive when they need to. And for me, it's really a matter of, can Barry Trotz outcoach Peter DeBoer? And in my opinion, absolutely. He can, absolutely, 100%. But for me, the way I see it is, the Islanders have what it takes to get to the Stanley Cup final. They have what they take, except for their captain. Unfortunately, like I said, Anders Lee is hurt right now. And Vegas is hungry for a cup, because they went to the Cup Finals in 2018, got upset in the 2019 screw job, and 2020 taken out in the Conference Finals, I believe, again as well. Yeah, Conference Finals by Dallas, I'm pretty sure, right? Wasn't that how it went? Conference Finals? I forget. So they won a cup, but both teams won a cup. Every team at this point in the Final Four is hungry for a Stanley Cup. So for me, I think you can really choose who you want here. But for me personally, I think the New York Islanders are going to be able to upset the Vegas Golden Knights. I honestly think that the New York Islanders massively upset the Vegas Golden Knights, and I think it's going to be in 5 games. Something just tells me Vegas is going to come here, but the Islanders are going to push so hard, and they're going to eliminate the Vegas Golden Knights in 5. I could see it happening. And then Carolina and Toronto. This is going to be a really fun series. Jake Gardiner playing against his former team in the Toronto Maple Leafs with the Carolina Hurricanes. The Carolina Hurricanes have great offense, but I don't think they can match the Maple Leafs. Carolina, in my opinion, has better offense than the Maple Leafs because they have Dougie Hamilton and and in net. Can Jack Campbell perform better than Alex Nedeljkovic is my question at this point. He absolutely can, but will he? Or is Freddie Anderson going to have to take the net against Carolina? This is a very interesting question that I have, because you look at it, Carolina has Sebastian Aho and Mista Svechnikov, but Toronto has Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Spezza. They have these guys that can perform very well in key situations, I don't know how I feel about Carolina, because whenever they get out of the first round, it seems they like to go on at least a conference finals or at least a Stanley Cup Finals run and a miracle run. But I don't know how I feel about Toronto's chances about getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. I don't know how I feel about that, because Carolina is a good option. I really like Carolina getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. But Toronto is not going to lay down and die easily. They're not going to lay down and die. Their first time in the conference finals since 1993, I think 93 was the last time they went to the conference finals. Maybe 2004, actually. I forget. Or no, 2002 maybe. 93, I'll say as a safe bet, because I know they went to the conference finals for sure in 93. First time since 93. First time in nearly 30 years, 28 years to be exact, that they've gone to the conference finals. And Carolina was here 2 years ago. So both teams, Carolina knows the conference finals, Toronto doesn't. But for me, I don't know. Because you look at it, the Islanders in Toronto, Tavares playing against his former team in the Stanley Cup final, but then Islanders and Carolina, two underdogs that not many people actually really see here. I know a lot of people are predicting Carolina, but you look at the beginning of the season, I don't think many people had Carolina get into the Stanley Cup finals. But two teams that are very much underdogs in their own regards, fighting for the cup, or Tavares versus all of New York, which means New York wins. What does it be? What does the Stanley Cup final turn into? This is incredibly tough for me to decide. I want to go to a wheel or something, but I don't have a wheel open up right now. But for me, I am going to be 100% honest. I genuinely, I really don't know. Toronto or Carolina. Because you look at it, I don't know any Carolina fans. I know several Toronto fans. That's not playing any part of this right now. I don't know why I mentioned that. But I'll be honest, I have a lot of Islanders fans and I have a lot of Toronto fans as friends on both ends. Carolina wants the Stanley Cup. But I'm going to be honest, and this isn't to troll anyone. For some reason, I see Toronto getting to the Stanley Cup. I genuinely see a Toronto and New York Islanders Stanley Cup final. But then it becomes, who the hell wins? Who wins in this series? Do the Islanders get their first cup since 1982? 1982. Or do the Maple Leafs get their first cup since 1967? Do the Maple Leafs end the longest Stanley Cup drought? Or do the Islanders end and potentially start a new dynasty? Potentially, yeah, of course. This is an interesting series. Tavares against his former team in the New York Islanders. The Islanders proving that they didn't need Tavares last year when they got to the conference finals. And now they're facing each other. This would be the most intense Stanley Cup matchup that I think I can think of personally. The Islanders looking for revenge on John Tavares, nothing more than winning the Stanley Cup in front of him. And Toronto wanting to show how they get Tavares, proving the Islanders wrong, winning the Stanley Cup, and Tavares lifting it against them. So for me, this really comes down to who's on each team, in my opinion. In net, Varlamov versus Jack Campbell at this point. Does Campbell crack? Does Varlamov crack? Do both crack, and we end up with a final of 9-8 in triple overtime somehow. I don't know how goalie cracking would lead to triple overtime, but anything's possible. Defense. I like Muzzin, Brody, Riley on the Maple Leafs, but that first pairing of Pelech and Pulock is really damn good. Arguably one of the best defensive pairings in the NHL. Then you look at offense. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Spezza, Thornton, Simmons, Mikheyev if he's in, Galchenyuk, who's looked rejuvenated in Toronto. And then you look at the Islanders, Barzal, Beauvillier, Pajot, Palmieri, Zajac, Nelson, several other guys that I can't even think of. Trying to look at some cards I have right here. I'm trying to look real quick. Josh Bailey, who can put in a couple goals here and there. Anders Lee, who's unfortunately hurt. Kyle Clutterbuck, who I think is still with the Islanders, I think. He's a decent depth guy. Matt Martin as well, actually. I just realized Matt Martin playing against his former line. And Casey Zizekas, who I think is really solid. And Matt Martin against his former team. Well, one of his former teams, because technically he was with the Islanders, then Maple Leafs, and back to the Islanders, so I consider the past Islanders a former team. Matt Martin wants to show why he left Toronto and got traded back to the Islanders, wants to prove them wrong. Because Matt Martin was a cap casualty to get John Tavares. For me, this series is incredibly interesting. There would be so many bloodbaths, and I think if it would be how the seeding is right now, 4-3, I think the series would probably go to 7 games. But for me, it's about who takes the series in those games. But for me, I could see it going either way. Either Toronto is the first Canadian Stanley Cup champion since 1993, or the Islanders win their first Stanley Cup since 1982 and their 5th overall. I could see the series going either way, but I'm going to be 100% honest. I see the New York Islanders as your Stanley Cup champions. It's no bias towards anyone in particular, obviously. TFS, Kim, Sons of Liberty. I have Islanders friends. And then my best friend, who I'm not going to say their name, Hot Tech Hockey, obviously, TBC. I know a lot of Islanders and a lot of Leafs fans, and they'd obviously be going for their respective team in the Cup Finals. I have no bias in this whatsoever. I'm a fan of both teams. I like both teams, I should say. But I honestly do think the New York Islanders are your Stanley Cup champions in 2021. As crazy as it sounds, I can see it happening. I can absolutely see the Islanders being Stanley Cup champions. But with that being said, Vegas is going to take them out. No, I'm not gonna bait and switch like that. I do think the Islanders are your Stanley Cup champions. And now for the tiebreaker, the total number of goals scored in the finals. This is going to be nuts. I don't know. What's the average score in a Stanley Cup final game? Like 3-2? So like five goals, say 7 games. That's 25 goals. No, 35 goals. I'm stupid. Screw it. Let's go 42 because the meaning of life. 42 goals in the Stanley Cup final. And your New York Islanders, ladies and gentlemen, are Stanley Cup champions. Great picks. Look like you created an awesome bracket. Thank you, NHL. So yeah, guys, that is going to do it for today's stream, or today's video. I wish I could stream. I really wish I could do this as a stream. But that is going to do it for today's video. The New York Islanders are, according to me, your 2021 Stanley Cup champions. That is going to do it for today's stream, today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, favorite, share, and anything who's unlimited to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and everything else. My name's Harry Rex. Subscribe to my Puff Club. Subscribe to the Hasty Club. Subscribe to the Sub Up. Subscribe to the D Nation. If you remember the Mod Squad, thank you for monitoring any comments on any videos and or any streams that I post. Links in the description are my Twitch. Once I get my PS4 fixed, I'm going to start streaming on there. Amazon wishlist, PO Box, and PayPal are greatly appreciated if anything is sent my way. I just realized I forgot to put the goddamn donation board up again. I apologize to everyone that donated in the past. I keep forgetting the board. But then again, I just really, when you have a background that's like this right now, I think it's hard to get a big-ass dono board there. When you have two Gretzky's about to slap shot the shit out of some poor Anaheim Duck, it's hard to get a board up here. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry to the people that have donated. But if you do donate, if anything is sent my way to the PayPal, if anyone does donate to the PayPal, you will get your name on the big ass not donor board of non-donations. That'll potentially in the future, if I can remember, be in the background of the next non-25 days and of Harry and non-unboxing video, and apparently non-predictions video, because I mean it would kind of be pretty small in the back now that I think about it. Anyways, so yeah, there's that. If anything is sent my way via the Amazon wishlist, the PO Box is greatly appreciated. Never to last for. Always greatly appreciated though. Same with the PayPal. If there is anything sent my way, it'll be uploaded. There will be a video of me unboxing whatever it is. If anything is sent my way, unless it is the months of November and December, in which case they will be held onto my desk. I opened during special 25 Days of Harry Christmas Eve live stream. I don't do it on Christmas Day because last year's was kind of disastrous. Yeah, also in the description is my Discord. It's where I post notifications every time I go live and every time I post a video. If you don't trust YouTube notifications, then join Discord because you'll likely get more there. We also talk on there occasionally. We got a Come Zone. We got the lounges for every NHL team. We got an Among Us stream coming up actually on the weekend. So if you want to play some Among Us with us on either Saturday or Sunday, maybe both, maybe only one, join the Discord. Let me know. And yeah, so there's that. Also in the description of my speedrunning account, now that I have a controller that works on my computer, I'm going to start doing more video game videos and more speedrunning videos in general. I think it'd be incredibly fun to do so. Maybe revisit Super Mario Bros. See if I can finally beat it. If you guys haven't seen the video from 25 Days of Harry 2 years ago, I'm going to try and put it. Maybe I'll put it in a bubble up here. Maybe that's the first time I'm going to use the bubbles. Check out the video for Let's Fail Super Mario Bros. Very fun video. I think it's really funny. One of my favorites. It takes a couple minutes to get into it, but it's funny once you get into the rage. And the final thing in the description is my letterbox. It's where I rate movies. Very rarely I'll actually review them. Most of the time I just rate them because I'm going to start doing more movie reviews in the off season once the Canadiens playoff hopes are ended in the first round. So yeah, check it out if you want to know movies I love. Unless you're about to check out the movie Christian out here, Rich Man are able to have reviews of all the time of 2020. Check it out if you also want to know what movies I love. I hate. Sorry. Yeah, check it out if you also want to know movies I hate. I want to do a video on that in the future. I think it'd be really fun to do so. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I love every single one of you guys that watch the videos, whether you're lurking, whether you're actually watching them, or the streams. Greatly means a lot. If you guys want to sub, hit the sub button. It means a lot. We're on our road to 1,000 subscribers, which means the road to monetization, which in turn means the road to better production quality. Because once we get, if people do decide to not donate to me on the PayPal, or they decide to help me get to 1K subs and I get money from YouTube, it means I can potentially get a better computer, which means better quality streams and better quality videos and more videos, because it means I can do stuff on this on the computer that I can't on this one because of limitations, the statutory limitations of a computer. But yeah, guys, so that's gonna do it for today's stream, guys. Thank you so much. Stay classy, boys, as I always clearly do in my videos. Ale Montreal, and please always, guys, remember, go Habs, go. Peace, boys. Love you guys.